Oh.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Xbox Factor podcast. I am your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and hopefully we are live because YouTube is slow as hell. But listen, this has been a great year for Xbox so far. We're only 10 days into 2020, and the news for what we're all going to be hoping and obviously praying that comes out to be a great console in the fall of 2020 is only 10 or 11 months away. And of course, to help me with this show, I had to not only bring back Zemi Games, you're going to see missing from the equation is the Welsh Gamer. Unfortunately, the Welsh Gamer is sick as a dog, literally. And he was so sick he could not make today's program, but he will be back in his emerald green seat next week. But to help us understand what the H is going on with all of these 12 teraflops versus 9.219 teraflops on the PlayStation 5, I asked Mads Gaming, because obviously if you watch his video, he is very technical. He's a technically savvy, I dare say. First of all, Mads, welcome to today's show. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks a lot for the invite. I always like to be here, talking with you guys and stuff. No, you are a great community member and stuff. So yeah, I always like your shows and stuff. So nice to be here, and let's talk about these specs.
Well, listen, first of all, again, thanks for being here, dude. Obviously, you are someone that I trust when you start talking about numbers and teraflops and color counts and price. So, your video that I watched this morning talked about, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, respectively, one being 400, one being 500, more than likely. But of course, I have to get to our regular panel member. He is a co-host of the Xbox Factor podcast, someone that I really enjoy working with on a weekly basis. Please welcome to the show. Of course, you see him as the bravest man in YouTube gaming, Zemi Games.
Thank you so much, Boom. Thank you so much. Man, these topics that you lined up are absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to jump into them, and thank you so much for allowing me to come on the show every week.
Well, listen, dude, it's great to have you here. You bring a lot to the table, and obviously, as long as you enjoy working on this show, then you're always going to be welcome here. I mean, that's at the end of the day, you have to have fun, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. But before we go any further, there are a couple of little notes that I kind of want to just throw out there. First of all, you obviously saw the intro to today's show. That is the regular intro, and that was made with the outstanding talent of the graphic guard. Now, if you don't know who the graphic guard is, shame on you, but you should. He is the artist that is responsible for all of the artwork, intros, banners, pictures, gamer pics that I have on this particular YouTube channel. And if you are someone who either has a YouTube channel, someone that's considering creating a YouTube channel, and really didn't know where to go in regards to getting your own original artwork created for you at a price that will be very reasonable and, of course, very surprising, you need to head over to xboxgamerpics.com. That is the website that is run and owned by Graphic God, aka J Dubs, and you know him as being one of the very, very active community members. He does have his own YouTube channel. He does have a weekly show called Retro Renegades, which I encourage everyone to get over and subscribe to. But also, if you're looking for original artwork, head over to xboxgamerpics.com. or hit him up on Twitter at the Graphic God, graphic_God. So you and hit him up in a DM. He is very, very friendly and he's very professional, and you guys will work it out. And of course, one other little tip that I want to get, just throw out there for, to the community at large. I have to say a huge thank you. Last week's Xbox Factor podcast is currently a smidge under 8,000 views, which is the highest view count a live show I have ever had in just over 2 years of doing YouTube. I am completely floored at how many amazing compliments that I have received on that particular video. But in the last month, it's just been unbelievable. If you are new to this channel, I want to say welcome. This is a very fun and a welcoming YouTube channel. We, obviously this show is Xbox centric, but we do have, other shows that you might enjoy. So if you're new, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. So when a new video goes live or a new show goes live, you will get the notification. But let's get right into, of course, what everyone is here to listen to. And that is the best Xbox talk on Thursday afternoon. Now, we are always going to cover the latest and greatest Xbox news, and hopefully that's exactly why people are tuning in right now. Now, as much as we've been talking about the Xbox Series X, I think this week we're going to kind of change things around and ask some questions that no one is asking. Now, the PS5 has all been but confirmed as being significantly less powerful than Microsoft's beast of a console in the Series X. Now, the question that I want to ask is a simple one, but we'll have a very complex discussion and answer that follows. Why did Sony decide to go this route? Now, this is a question, like I said a few seconds ago, no one is really asking. Now, this is not poking fun at the PS5's less powerful design. The big question that I think everyone is going to be asking is, why did Sony choose price? Apparently, price over power. And if so, did they care what the hardcore fans really wanted? Now, we know that Jim Ryan himself has said that Sony as a company, as a corporation, wants the PlayStation 5 to be the fastest selling console in the company's history. They want to get this console in everyone's hands, and a $399 price tag is quite tasty, considering that it is going to be apparently 9.219 teraflops. Now, that is a beastly number compared to what they currently have on the regular, vanilla PS4 and of course the Pro. And listen, the results are there, folks. You've seen what they did with Spider-Man. You've seen what they did with God of War. You've seen what they did with Horizon Zero Dawn. And you've seen what they've done with Ghost of Tsushima, which is coming this year, as well as The Last of Us 2. Now, I've already started saving for the PlayStation 5, and we'll be looking forward to, of course, God of War 2 by Sony Santa Monica, Horizon 2 by Guerrilla Games, and Insomniac Games almost guaranteed Spider-Man 2. And though without sounding like an alarmist, they are the market leader, right? We know that to be a fact. But I would dare say that I think that Sony recently has been resting on their laurels. Or did they take Microsoft's drive to reclaim the market leader lightly, opening the door for Xbox to potentially start this next generation with a huge lead? Now, before I get into the question part of the fire topic to start today's show, I wanted to ask this. And no, actually, you know what? I'm not going to ask it. I'm just going to say it. Power has, and always will be important in gaming. Sure, games are needed to enjoy the power that will be accompanying both the new consoles. But the days of Microsoft having no games is over. Now, if you're going to be banging this drum about how power doesn't matter, I have to say this, and I'm going to just rehash some stuff. Power mattered very blatantly across the gaming media, across the gaming general public, as well as social media in 2013. And that did not change until Sony lost that power. And then, of course, the goalposts were moved. And you know what? If you want to bang this drum, if you want to talk about how games matter, I will agree with you. But understand that those games that you said Microsoft did not have are coming. And then once the Microsoft brand has the games, has the services, has the power, I think Sony fans are going to be asking some serious questions. Now, getting on to the panel questions. This is what I pose to you. And I want to start with our very esteemed guest. And that, of course, is Mads Gaming. My question to you, Mads, is very simple. Why did Sony seemingly abandon the power crown without a fight? And did they underestimate how hungry Microsoft was to change this new generation in their favor?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question for sure. I mean, I don't think Sony underestimated Microsoft in terms of like their kind of thirst for power, right? Because like, listen, I mean, they've been banging about the power for the last 3 years, right? I mean, and even right now, like they focus on power a lot. So I don't think that, and I'm sure, just like we did, I'm sure that Sony executives, they knew from the get-go that Microsoft will go for this power crown again. Now, whether they're going to reach that, well, that's still up to debate, I guess, because like all we've got is like rumors and leaks. Yeah, these are pretty strong leaks, I would say, but but I mean, I still hear from PlayStation guys saying that I still hear that that PlayStation 5 is going to end up being more powerful anyway. So I mean, I don't know. I can only go by what I hear from the leaks and rumors, right? I mean, just like everyone really does. But I think that Sony is in a bit different position than Microsoft is, because they are a market leader, and
right,
basically,
that's correct.
So they've got all these people that bought and invested in PlayStation 4 ecosystem behind them, right? So you can pretty much say that most of these guys, sooner or later, they will migrate from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. And obviously, Sony would like them to migrate sooner than later, right?
Of course.
So
yes.
obviously, if they were to come out with a $500 or $600 console, well, this migration would take longer time, right?
Yes.
So I think that's one point, one thing. Another thing is that obviously Microsoft has something else to fall on, right? I mean, if in case they would fail to push a lot of consoles, because they've still got PC, like all Xbox first-party games going to be available on PC. They are investing heavily in xCloud, right? So I guess I don't want to say that consoles are not important for Microsoft, because that would obviously be a lie. Because listen, I mean, they invest, that they want to push for power again. They are investing a lot of money in research and development of the actually 2 consoles, not 1, right? So that costs a lot of money. So basically we cannot really say that they don't care about consoles. But I guess, like, if you look at the whole ecosystem, consoles are just part of it, right? While with PlayStation, you can't really argue that it's, PlayStation is really the most important part of Sony, I would even say.
It is
right
now, yes. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you said that, Mads, because from what we've been told and what we've seen, for a long time, Sony was bleeding money from everywhere but the PlayStation division. That is actually what's been keeping them afloat. Now, listen, we're not going to take anything away from Sony Pictures. They have been making some bank since, with Spider-Man Far From Home. Obviously, it broke $1 million. Sony Animation seems to be doing very well. They put out some stuff. People are enjoying, kids are enjoying their animated stuff. But for the most part, those are the only 2 areas where they are now. Obviously, thanks to CES, we saw that they're investing in automobiles now, which I think is a little strange. But they're going to try and turn things around.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, so generally speaking, they they really want to make the PlayStation 5 hardware the main pushing factor for their next generation success, because like I said, PlayStation now is somewhere up there, but it's not really making a ton of money for them. I'm sure that will change in the future, but it's not like immediate future, if you know what I mean, right?
Yes.
They've got PlayStation VR, but let's face it. I mean, you saw the numbers during CES. That's like 4.7% of overall PlayStation 4 owners owns PlayStation VR only. That's not really a lot. So that's not going to be, they're not going to make a huge money on it, right? So obviously,
Right.
in order to sell games, in order to drive revenue and whatever, right? And obviously sell their own games, and let's face it, they are actually making more money on third-party games, not their own, because because people focus on exclusives, and I get that. I mean, exclusives actually sells consoles, right? Because like multiplats, I mean, whether you've got a PlayStation, Xbox, or PC, you can play all multiplats, right? You can argue what that one will run one game better than the other, but at the same time, like, it's still pretty much the same game. But exclusives actually make people to go and buy these consoles, right?
Yes.
And the thing is, like, so Sony doesn't really make a ton of money on exclusives, but they push consoles. And once you push the consoles, then you make games. Then you make a lot of money on PlayStation Now. PlayStation Plus. The what's the word? Royalties from
yes,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you saw the numbers yesterday. They sold 1.15 billion software on their consoles, right?
It's unbelievable, the amount. Yes.
Yeah. So 30% of that sales, right, went into Sony's pocket, right? Because like they are getting 30% of each transaction on PlayStation Store and the physical sales as well. So Sony really, I mean, they've got no other way to do it. They must push as many consoles as possible at the very beginning of generation, because once you've got this, mind share and the market share, it's easier to control the narrative, and then obviously, sell more games and whatever. And once they've got some market share, next generation, they will probably think about like some bigger changes for PlayStation Now and whatever they've got planned for the future, right? Because like, I mean, they have to. And that's not really the case with Xbox, because they've got Windows, they've got PC guys that will be buying games. They've got Xbox Game Pass that is both available on PC and consoles. You've got xCloud coming very soon as well. I mean, it's available already, but it's still in beta, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's the only way Sony can do it right now.
Well, I mean, everything you said makes perfect sense. I mean, they want to sell consoles. In order to move consoles, they were willing to sacrifice. Again, folks, this is speculation because of the numbers that have been given out by good sources. Now, we don't know exactly. We do have these data miner diggers that went through AMD's files, and they found out that one is 12 and one is 9.2. And different things, and listen, it's going to be very interesting. But I am going to say this, and I'll throw this out there right now. I don't think I'm stepping out of turn. If you are a Sony player, if you're a Sony only player, and you're expecting a beast like the Series X is alleged to be at this point, you're not getting that to start this generation. FYI, they want price over power. That's obvious. And $399. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I still don't understand how a 9.2 teraflop could be $400. But Sony's going to figure it out. And again, I don't know if they're going to take a loss. I don't think any company wants to take a loss. But if it's going to be 400, it's going to sell. As a matter of fact, it's going to sell probably very well at 400. But at the same time, are the casuals that went out and bought a PlayStation 4 Slim during Black Friday for $150 that came with Spider-Man, God of War, and something else, are those folks going to be adopting the new hardware? The answer is I don't think so. And I think that is something that Sony's going to have to address by lowering the price eventually, and or as we've seen from Reset Era and the 4chan forums and places like that, there's already been talk of a PlayStation 5 Pro, which wouldn't surprise me in the least. But, Zemi, before I get to you, I have to thank Gamer by Choice for not only being here, but showing extreme generosity with the outstanding $10 super chat. And he says, great show, enjoying the topic, and just wanted to support an awesome channel and panel. Hit that like button and subscribe. Well, thank you so much for the generosity. Thank you for the kind words. And of course, thank you for the channel support. Now, Zemi, obviously you being a part of this show on a weekly basis, we get a chance to talk, at least in the last couple of weeks, of the Xbox Series S, which is the lesser power console, from what we understand. Again, alleged, because nothing has been confirmed. But we do know that the X has been confirmed, because that was done on December 12th, live for, 48 million people watching it to see. And are you surprised at all that Sony decided to, because again, it seems as if they're okay with the power, not having the power that they once had, but going after the abundance of fans and offering the PlayStation 5 at a $399 price point to attract even the mid-tier casual gamers. Maybe because there's different tiers when you talk about gaming. The casual gamer, the ultimate casual gamer, will buy 2 games a year. And that's a proven fact. Maybe 3 if their friend at work says, yes, I'm playing Spider-Man 18 and it's freaking amazing and you got to play it. And maybe they'll go out and buy it. But they're not going to go out and buy it. And of course, with the casuals, there are tiers. There are mid-range, and there are casual players that are just under being what you would consider hardcore. Are you surprised with the Sony taking this route? And more importantly, do you feel the frustration of some of the Sony players that have made it very, very public that they wanted the choice of having to spend an additional $100 to get that power?
So the way I view power has always been really a lot different than how a lot of other people view power. I mean, obviously it's an important thing, right? I'm not trying to say that it's not important, but there are several other factors that I believe are a heck of a lot more important than just power. I mean, games for one, price is another, the convenience factor, the first party games, the community that you're going to be playing with on that platform, like those types of things are a lot more important than power. And I think whenever a lot of these people, go onto Twitter and they're moaning and complaining how PlayStation is letting them down, how, they don't have the most powerful console, I think a lot of that is stemmed into, these console wars, and I don't think a whole lot of it is based on, what that consumer actually wants necessarily. I could be wrong, but I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. And another, just an example I like to think of whenever talking about power. If power was the number one thing, the most important thing for any single consumer, then they should go out and buy a $1,500 to $2,000 PC, computer.
Yes.
Right. But
Yeah.
but the reality of the situation is power is not that important to a lot of people. And whenever you really think about it, it's not the most important thing above all other things, or you would have a $2,000 computer rig. But, realistically, we don't have the money. Price is a huge impact. I think prices is definitely a lot more important than power. And another example of looking at a company who, quite honestly, probably never has the power, but always ends up bringing out great consoles.
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Yes. Yep.
They ride on the first party as hard as any other company probably does or could, right? And they succeed every single time. So I don't think power is it important? Sure, I'd be lying if I said no, but it's not the most important thing. And so whenever you hear these people, bouncing back and forth on Twitter, all these different, social medias, I think a lot of that is just stemmed into these console war shenanigans. These people that, used to be able to go online and talk trash about how they had the most powerful console now can't do that. And so, they're upset, they're salty, if you will. But, as far as PlayStation with the whole power narrative, I still, I don't think that they're going to have the most powerful console, obviously. I don't think it's going to be huge leaps and bounds, lower than the Xbox. I don't think that the new Xbox Series X is going to be able to outperform the new PlayStation 5, tenfold. But I think what PlayStation is doing now is smart. They're dropping the power narrative. They know that they don't have the power. So what are they doing? They're switching the narrative. They're talking about the games because they do know that they have the games. And, we over here on Xbox, we can talk about how we're going to have the games, but we don't have the games now. But PlayStation does, right? So they have that narrative that they can talk about. And I think that's really, really smart. And I think that's a big reason why they're kind of dropping the whole power conversation and switching over to what they do have and what they're doing right. Another thing that they have is VR, which, hopefully at E3, we see a lot more about like a PlayStation VR 2, going forward with that company. But ultimately, I really don't think power is the biggest, factor. I think everyone that goes out, this holiday and buys a PS5 is going to be perfectly happy with their system. I don't think whenever they launch up their third-party game, they're going to be like, man, this really sucks. I wish I would have, bought an Xbox Series X, because I don't think that there's going to be that huge of a difference, visually. Is the Xbox going to be a better console? Is it going to perform better? Sure, absolutely. 100%. But is it going to be that big of a difference? I don't think so.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. You know what? I'm gonna actually send a link to, of course, Enrique, who drops an incredible and very generous $2 super chat. He's gonna apparently jump in. I just sent him a link, so let's before I give my spiel on it, let's see if we can get him in here and have him join, because I was on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast for about.
You're talking about Enrique PC Master Race?
PC Master Race Enrique. Yes, that is correct. We know him very well because he is going to be, he asked for an invite, so I'm going to see if we can get him in here for a few minutes. But you know what? Here's the thing. The one thing that, again, you have to give credits to Sony, right? They kind of put their stake in the sand. And again, folks, this is all speculation town that we're kind of hanging out right now, because Sony could very well drop the PlayStation 5 at $499, and then we're going to have problems, because then they've really painted themselves into a corner, because if Microsoft's reality is going to be a $500 12 teraflop system, they have the power, they have the price at that point, and they're going to have a bonus price by offering a alleged $299 Series S, which is going to be 4 teraflops, but it's going to have the new GPU and a new CPU, making it more powerful than the current Xbox One X. So that paints a very ugly picture for Sony. Do I think that's the picture that they've painted? The answer is no. I think that we're going to have 3 price points. I think we're going to have the extreme maximum price of $500, because Microsoft knows that people will pay $500 for power. They did that with the X. I did it. A good chunk of the people in this chat did it. And Sony's going to come out at a $499 box, less powerful, 3 teraflops more or less powerful. And then Microsoft is going to counter that lower price by offering a system that has no disk drive, that does have no UHD drive, that's going to be a digital box only at $300, and it's going to be more powerful than the current Xbox One X, which plays games absolutely astounding. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Now, before I get into it, again, we're still waiting Enrique to jump in here. I got to thank a couple of people because super chats come in. Xbox Battlegrounds with the outstanding and very generous $5 super chat. They say, yes, power is extremely important when it comes to PlayStation and Xbox. Nintendo, not so much. And I would agree with that. And Enrique, welcome. Hey. What's up, dude? How's everything?
Dude, I had some time to spare my busy day. I'm like, you know what? Let me see if Boom will have me on. And,
absolutely. You're very welcome to be here anytime.
Yeah, dude.
Let me just read out this other super chat, and I'm going to pose the question to you. You got here in the nick of time. And Sophonic X Initiative with the outstanding and very generous $5 super chat. He says, you guys will be surprised how close the Series X is to an actual PC. Specs aside, expect Microsoft to take aim at the PC master race. Shots fired in the chat. Thank you for the comment and, of course, being here and, of course, your generosity. Now, listen, obviously, Enrique, I don't think you could have timed this any more perfectly. This is you came in literally at the perfect time. Now, look, you yourself play on PC. You went out and you bought you built your, and it's a very powerful rig. And you yourself have publicly said both on BRAP and on Crossfire and on this program how thoroughly as a gamer that you've been impressed with the power that you have put together to see these games in a light never before seen, and you're very happy with it. Now, you understand that you spent a significant amount of money to see these changes, and these changes are very apparent based on what you've said publicly. Here's my question, and I think the question of the day is, why did Sony decide to go with price over power? Allegedly, I have to keep saying that because, on my last show, I got called a liar a couple of times saying that I was promoting hate and lies towards the Sony brand, which is obscene. But I just want to make sure that I'm completely clear that alleged 9.2 teraflops, which is going to be an amazing console. Why do you think that they decided, if this in fact this comes to fruition, they went with the price over power, basically just, bowing out the power crown to the Xbox Series X?
It may have something to do with, trying to get the console at a price point that people are comfortable and used to. And what I mean by that is potentially maybe releasing the PlayStation 5 at a $399 price point, which was the price point of the PlayStation 4.
Yes,
and that
is correct.
That seemed to work very well for them. And so perhaps that's maybe that's why they did it. Maybe they felt like, hey, you know what? Maybe there's a sweet spot here. We don't have to be the most powerful powerful console just yet. You got to imagine there's probably, I think I heard, I don't think it was you, Boom, who said that there's probably going to be a PS5 Pro.
Yes. Well, there's been talk about it on the forums, and again, those forums, you got to take them with a grain of salt. I mean, again, they're talking about it. Does that mean that Sony's talking about it? Probably not. But at the same time, are they
actually? Sony did speak about it as well.
Oh, so there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, just to chime in. Actually,
yeah, absolutely. Pop on in.
There was this huge article on, I think, Game Informer or something. It was called 25th anniversary of PlayStation or whatever, right? And there was a bunch of interviews with different people responsible for all kinds of things PlayStation, right? So basically people that actually chimed into the whole PlayStation success, right? And one of them was actually one of the PlayStation engineers. And he was actually, obviously he didn't say specifically, so PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be a thing. But he did say that PlayStation 4 Pro was a test, right? And it went pretty well. So it's kind of, he suggested that PlayStation 5 Pro may be a thing.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if it was somewhat of a success, like Mods is saying, it wouldn't surprise me. Then it makes at least sense to me that they launch the PlayStation 5. They they do this 9.25 teraflop console at $399, and then at a later date release a more powerful console, something that's probably more for the enthusiasts with the PlayStation 5 Pro.
Right. I mean, listen, it's going to be interesting. I have to, first of all, thank two people. First of all, Sean Burke with the outstanding and very generous $10 super chat. He says, I'm really hoping the final build will have 2 HDMI ports as I connect cable through the Xbox One X. Really disappointing if they ignore what they got us used to in the first place. Yeah, there has been several pictures of the back, and Microsoft themselves is saying that nothing is final right now. So it's going to be interesting. And I just want to shout out and thank him for his comment. Ted Unseth says T-Flops doesn't tell the whole story with the PlayStation 5. All components combined is equal to an 11.6 T-Flops, very close to the XSX. Now, here's the thing. If in fact that's the case, then that's great. That's even more power for your $400. But at the same time, using those same mathematics that you're providing us, that means that if you would look at the XSX, also known as the Xbox Series X for people that don't understand the acronym, what would that make that console? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to get into the compact math situation with Mark Cerny again. The teraflops are going to be the teraflops. If it's 9, it's going to be 9. If it's 12 on the Xbox, it's going to be 12. But how they use those teraflops with the combined electronics on that chip are going to be what sets the box apart. So I thank you for being here, dude. First of all, it's a new name that I didn't see, so obviously you're new to the channel. If you are, welcome. Say hit that sub button, and thank you again for that question. That was pretty interesting. But look, all I'm going to say is this, and I think Zemi actually said this, and I think that Brap would actually, Enrique would agree. If you really want the maximum power, then you as a gamer would go out and buy a $2,500 rig or $3,000 worth of parts and build your own. See, for me, having a rig, even if I won a rig, let's say, for instance, that Boomstick opened up his email and said, "Hey, Alienware just dropped some really, a contest, and you won, Mr. Boomstick." And I say, "Holy shit, I won a $3,000 computer." I would set it up. I would take pictures. I would probably claim, listen, a part of the master race I have converted. And you know how many games I'd play on it? Probably none. Because I like sitting in front of my new my QLED that I bought, that I treated myself to over the holiday. And I just want to sit in front of my couch and in front of the TV and play. The whole computer thing, it just does not, it's never been something I've been interested in, and I've been gaming since 1978, so I've always been a console gamer. But all I can say is that it's going to be a very interesting fall, and I'm going to say this publicly: if in fact the PlayStation 5 is $399, that's going to be good for me for a lot of reasons. One, unfortunately, Sony has not changed PlayStation Now to offer day-and-day games, which is very sad. And it's something that I really want them to do because, like, for instance, let's say we all bring home our Xbox Series X or S. You're going to be treated to anywhere between 6 and 10, even possibly 12 games that are going to be in Game Pass for you to play without having to lift a finger other than, put in the code that's supposedly going to be in the box. Now, we're hearing 3 months, up to 3 months, for Game Pass for anyone that buys a new console this fall. And if that's the case, then you're basically buying the box and you're getting all those games technically for free for you to play on your new console. Sony, on the other hand, man, I mean, it goes back to the old adage. And I think, Brad, we were talking about that last night on the amazing show that you produced about how we're going to have to really make some decisions with the PlayStation 5 purchase, because no games, from what we understand, are going to come with it. All of those games that you're going to want to see and play on this new console, you're going to have to buy. So there's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made, and price for people in the holiday. There could be choices that, either you buy your kids gift or you buy yourself a gift. Me, I'd buy my kids gift and just, I'll get it whenever I get it, especially if you have a big family. But this has been an amazing topic. I hope everyone is very happy with the way it was broken down. I want people to understand that this is not an Xbox show that hates on Sony. This is because I run it. I run it because I enjoy Xbox as my main place to play. But of course, I still support wholeheartedly the Xbox. I mean the Nintendo and the PlayStation 4 Pro. Enrique, can you hang around for one more topic?
Yeah, no, I definitely can. I just want to chime in real quick, Boom. I just want to
please,
say,
by all means, this is a
nice thing
conversational
about
podcast. Go crazy.
the nice thing about the PC Master Race is that we can always upgrade. And I think Mods, you know this, man.
Well, Mods is a tech guy. Yes.
Look, I have no what you're talking. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. I don't know anything of a PC.
Let me tell you, Mods.
Yeah,
Mods was actually instrumental in me switching over to the PC Master Race. Believe it or not.
Really?
I had several conversations with him in DM. Remember, Mods? Remember, I was tweeting you, DMing you like specs and stuff. I'm like, is this good? Is this good? Can I work with this GPU? And I know I was kind of going back and forth with it. NVIDIA, AMD. He's like, well, one has ray tracing, the other one doesn't. You know, so he was very instrumental in me making the switch.
Well, I mean, listen, obviously, you know, there's some technical know-how that comes behind it. I am not the most tech savvy. When I have a computer problem, I call my brother Neo Mental, who is a programmer by nature. He's a designer. So he does this for a living. So I would immediately go to him. I probably could build my own PC, but it's just, again, I want to plug and play. I want to download a game and play it and not have to worry about drivers or sound cards or any of that shit. That unfortunately, that stuff, that aggravation comes with PC gaming, and you've probably experienced yourself. Like, something is not working. Like, shit, all I want to do is play this game, and I only have 25 minutes, and 15 of those 25 minutes have now been, you know, taken away because I had to figure out what the H is going on with this.
Yeah, I mean, I had that issue with Red Dead Redemption 2 and the more recently the Master Chief Collection on PC. I mean, you know, it doesn't happen a lot, but it does. Like, it's certainly better. I used to game in PC like many years ago, like back to like the Unreal Tournament days and Quake. But it's gotten better. But yeah, there's still issues. Like I said, I definitely had issues with Red Dead Redemption 2, Master Chief Collection. I had issues with Steam more recently. Something happened with my save files of Destiny 2. I had to reinstall it.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, like, and you just want to, like, you know, sit down, and I wanted to fire up and play some Destiny 2, and I couldn't do it because the game wouldn't launch, and like something happened with my save files. Basically, I had to reinstall the game. So yeah, I mean, it's great when it's working, but it can be a pain in the ass too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know what? What I want to do is, first of all, before we move on to the next topic, and I do want to make sure, did everyone get off their chest what they wanted to talk about on the panel regarding the PlayStation 5 power versus price? Okay, that's good. All right. Well, listen, I have to thank Beaner8127 with the very generous $5 super chat. He says, with Sony Studios, they only need 9.2 teraflops. The 12 from Microsoft is for third party and helping their studios catch up. But when they do catch up, oh boy, look out. I think that once both companies are cranking out masterful first party games, the second party, exclusives are going to come into play. Sony does have a couple, like we talked about last night, on Brap. Tune in for that. Blue Point is apparently working on 2 PlayStation 5 games that are exclusives. Now, what do we know about them? Well, 2 of them, both games are supposed to be classic IPs, and one of which is Demon Souls, which we've been hearing for quite some time. I suck at that game. I suck at all of those games, but I will buy it to support the company and want to see that running on my PlayStation 5. The other one is if this comes to fruition, it's going to be a master stroke of brilliance. One that has excited me since I heard it. Again, this is not a topic. I'm just going to throw this out there before we move on to the next one. But Metal Gear Solid, the original PlayStation game, is supposedly being worked on by Blue Point in the same fashion that was brought to us by Capcom with Resident Evil 2. If that comes true, my God, and if that's a launch title, they're going to move consoles, and quite frankly, I cannot wait to play that because that is still in my top 5 games of all time. But
you know what? If they make a proper remake, just like they did with Resident Evil, like, you know, change the camera and the controls and stuff. I mean, because listen, you know, I tried. There was this HD collection, Meta MGS collection available on Game Pass, and I tried to play it. You know what? These games don't hold up very well.
They don't.
Controls and stuff, right? But if they did that, if they do what they did with Resident Evil, new controls and better camera and stuff, I'm up for it.
Oh yeah, I think the world would be up for it. It might actually make Konami, because obviously Konami has nothing to do with it. From what we've heard, from what I've read, Sony went to Konami and said, "Hey, this is what we're considering doing for the launch of the PlayStation 5. You don't have to do anything. You just have to give us the permission." I'm sure they paid a hefty, wrote a lot of check with a lot of zeros. And that Blue Point, man, we know what they do. They are phenomenal when it comes to remastering and recreating older games to make them look like current gen. Shadow of the Colossus is a perfect example. Sure, the controls weren't that great, but my God, that game looked gorgeous.
Boom, did you play the original Shadow of Colossus?
I did, and it was awful, but I played it. It was, and what they did with the new one is, again, folks, if you didn't play it, it's probably like $10. Go pick it up. But real quick, before we get move on to the next topic, I have to thank Pixel Witcher with the outstanding $5 super chat. He says, "Great show. Keep it up, Boom." Well, thank you for the compliment, but more importantly, thank you for the generosity. Now, thanks to Zemi Games, outstanding recommendation to play A Plague Tale by Asobo Studio. I am now playing one of the biggest and most hidden gems of 2019. Now, you've seen me in the last couple of days posting picture after picture after picture. So what I did is I wanted to bring up some pictures, okay, of the game, because I want to sell this brand, this game for Asobo, simply because it is a masterpiece. If you have not played it, look, let's bring up the first screenshot here. This is directly from the website. This is I've taken pictures this gorgeous from my Xbox One X and posted it on Twitter. I'm going to say this. If you are a Sony fan, right, or you are a fan of that brand of single player, story-driven, adult-themed content that I am, something that I strive to play on a regular basis, this game is for you. It is a multi-plat. Asobo Studios has made this game, and the reason for this originally written topic for today's show is because I wanted to pose some very interesting questions to you fine folks in the chat, as well as my outstanding panel. But before I asked that question, let's find out for a second who Asobo Studios really is. Now, they are a French video game developer. The company is based in Bordeaux, France, and was founded in 2002. Now, currently, as of this show, they have 140 plus employees and are a very talented group of developers. Now, the studio has developed in its history a total of 17 video games for both console and the PC Master Race. More notably, and this is their last 5 titles they've worked on, in order was Recore, which a lot of people didn't like that game. I loved it. It was gorgeous to look at. They helped with the development of that title. Disney's Rush, which again, it's a Disney game, but I play it with my nephew, and quite frankly, it is a lot of fun. The racer called Fuel, and I remember playing that. That wasn't bad, but the two standouts that show that this company has taken a turn for talent is A Plague Tale, which is up on your screen right now, and the photorealistic telemetry game that is going to have lifelike visuals, unlike anything you've ever seen, is of course Flight Simulator. I'm going to bring up a picture now. I pulled this directly from the website. Folks, take a look at this. This is from Flight Simulator 2020. And holy shit, if that doesn't look real to you, I'm going to lend you my pair of glasses I'm currently working, because they are new, so you can see what I'm seeing. Now, as we've all been made aware, Microsoft is still looking to fill their ranks with great, talented studios. And one interesting claim from the famed Xbox insider known as Clobriel in mid-2019 has yet to come to fruition. That Twitter post simply said hashtag 20 in 2020, alluding to the possibility that Xbox Game Studios, or XGS, if you like it short, are going to have 20 first-party studios making games for the Xbox platform. Now, as we know, Phil Spencer is looking to gain a foothold in many corners of the world to bring Xbox gaming to countries that traditionally have been PlayStation and Nintendo-based players. They have already been talking about developing an original Asian studio. They were just in Poland last week talking to several studios. And with Asobo being in France, another part of the world that has been dominated by Sony's PlayStation brand, this could be a great move. So here's my question to the chat, and of course my esteemed panel. And I'll go to Enrique first. With the talent that's on display with A Plague Tale and what has already been shown with Flight Simulator, how important is it for Microsoft to purchase this studio? Or do you think Asobo would make a fantastic, and would you think they would make a fantastic addition to XGS, Enrique?
Yeah, I think they would make definitely make a fantastic addition to Xbox Game Studios. I mean, I've heard, it's funny, I've heard so much about this game and I have yet to play it, and I'm totally sleeping on this game. I need to pick it up. And
dude, just look at the screenshot. This is from
Shame.
This is legit. This isn't Doctor. This is an extra 4K added to it. This is the game.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, yeah, and everyone that I've heard that's played it's like raved about it, and so it's a me problem. I'm totally sleeping on the game, but no, I mean this would be a big, I think, acquisition, a great acquisition if Microsoft decided to pick up the studio for to add to XGS, and I would imagine, like, just given their size, it probably maybe falls in line in terms of, I think what Microsoft's trying to do, maybe acquiring smaller studios and kind of fostering those smaller studios and giving them the resources they need to kind of, hire new staff and maybe build out bigger games. We saw that with God, I'm drawing a blank now, with Ninja Theory.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think if they did it, I mean, hell, that would be a great acquisition for them. And I mean, I haven't played A Plague Tale yet, but I would imagine, Boom, from what you played, you probably want to see maybe a sequel to it, if that's possible.
I just got up to the 10th chapter this morning, and I don't know how it's going to end. I don't know how many chapters. I don't even want to know, to be honest with you. I'm just really just enjoying it. It is. I am going to say this, and Zemi, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder here, because I know we talked about this privately. I am going to say this. When I'm playing this game, I get a sense, an urge, a fantastic urge of that I'm playing a game by Ninja Theory. That's how striking this game is, both in story and in graphics. And this is coming from a small team that obviously sunk their teeth into this game and are currently working on the Microsoft's Flight Simulator 2020, which I mean, you see it up on the screen again. This shot is not from the inside of a cockpit for real. This is from the freaking game, folks. And if they could bring, now again, what I enjoy about these two perspectives, where I'm going back and forth from the story-driven game and this flight simulator game, two ends of the spectrum there, Enrique. One is storytelling, and here's another picture. And I took this shot. That's that's in game. This is right here. This is while you're playing the game. You could see the hairs on her neck. That is crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a beautiful looking game. I mean, and
it tells such an incredible story. My goodness, it tells it really. amps up from the second you start this game. You're talking about loss. You're at the edge of your seat of what's going to happen. You're running for your life. You have no weapon. There's no weapons in the game other than a sling. FYI, you have some alchemy that you could use, but it is a lot of the times if you're spotted or you don't hit them quick enough, you're dead, or your party is dead.
So it incorporates a lot of stealth elements then.
Yes.
Yes, tons of stealth elements. Yes,
I like this.
Yeah, this might be for you. And you know what? Being that you're on the PC Master Race, you might be able to find it on Good Old Games or something cheap, and definitely play this title, dude.
Yeah, no, you know what? I'm gonna pick it up. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion at this point. Boom, you have sold me. Well, I think I was already sold before, but yeah,
I made you push the button. Is basically
yes, exactly.
Now, here's another screenshot, folks. Look at this. Look at the flamingos. This looks freaking real, folks.
I'm not gonna lie, Boom. Like I see people kind of making fun of Flight Simulator, but I'm not gonna try. Like as somebody who games on PC, I'm probably going to try this game out. Plus, my kids would love it too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm really going to want to crash and see what that looks like, but hopefully not.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, I have to thank Elemento Pio in the chat for being here, but he drops a very generous $2 super chat. He says XGS needs to snatch up Asobo if they haven't already, which again, folks, we don't know if they did or they didn't, but that would be a pretty big, E3 announcement if they wanted to hold out that long. I don't necessarily know if that could remain a secret. Mads, I want to go to you on this because obviously you also are from the PC Master Race and you also are an Xbox fan. We know that Microsoft is currently trying to make sure that they have a steady flow of an incredible experiences, not just for the Xbox, but of course the PC as well. And when you see games like A Plague's Tale and Flight Simulator, I mean, you as a gamer, not from a technical aspect, but from as a gamer who wants to see this company succeed, do you think that Asobo would make a great addition, like Ninja Theory, to the Xbox game studios?
Yeah, I think that would be a great asset for Xbox game studios and obviously Xbox and gamers overall. Because like you guys said, I mean, they are like 45 people big in terms of like size, and so they fit perfectly the whole like up to 100 developers kind of studios that Microsoft is looking for really, and then they want to grow them. Looks like they are very efficient as well, because if you hear like they are working on Flight Simulator, they are working on, well, they did work, they finished the Plague's Tale. Apparently they are working on sequel. So if you're enjoying this game, I've got good news for you. Apparently they are planning the sequel. But the problem with Asobo is that apparently they've already signed up with I don't know who published this game. I think it's Focused Entertainment or something like that, or Interactive, whatever, right? But
yeah, I believe you're right.
Yeah, but they signed up another deal for a sequel of Plague's Tale.
Right.
So
I mean, Microsoft could always, if they did in fact purchase them, they would more than likely honor that deal the same way they did with
Obsidian.
With Obsidian, a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Or they could actually just buy out the contract. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they could. I mean, like at the end of the day, Microsoft doesn't have a problem with. Obviously, if they signed up with Focus Interactive already, they will have to probably release this game, the sequel or whatever game they are working right now on multiple platforms. And I mean, clearly Microsoft doesn't really have a big problem with that because they did that in the past with other studios, right? But like if Microsoft were to bought them, I mean that would be a huge deal to me. And now obviously I get that people sometimes kind of like have this attitude of like, oh yeah, Microsoft really needs like a huge studios and whatever, right? Another 343 Industries or whatever, right? But and I would agree. And I mean obviously the more studios and the more bigger studios, then the more like AAA exclusives, AAA games they're going to produce. But like Game Pass needs like variety of games. And
I agree. Yes,
and
yeah,
like
that's a great point.
and if you actually look at games like Ninja Theory's Hellblade, right? Great game. I mean, I played this game. I finished this game in like 3 days.
Wow.
I was addicted to it. With my headphones and everything. This game.
Play with headphones. Yes, good point.
Yeah,
Play it with headphones, folks.
Yeah. It was a bit scary at times and stuff, right? It's not really a long experience because I think it took me like 9 or maybe 10 hours to finish it. But it was great. So, and this game was made by, I think, I don't want to misconstrue any misinformation, but I think like 15 people or something like that.
It was a very low amount that made the game. Very similar to what happened with Hellblade.
Yeah, but look at the quality of this game. I mean, the graphics, the animations, the cinematics, and everything. I mean, it is a AA game because it's a rather small game, but it offers AAA quality, right? So now imagine what they can do with more people when a budget. Same goes to Asobo. They've got like 45 people working there, right? And they are working on multiple projects. And clearly, and I think that was something that Matt Booty actually said, that they like to choose developers that kind of proved themselves throughout years as game studios that can manage resources wisely, right? And I think that I think Microsoft learned their lesson with all the failures they had with other third-party studios that didn't deliver and they had to cancel projects, right? I mean, there was a couple of them, right? Obviously, like Scalebound and whatever, right? Because back in it feels like back in the days, Microsoft's approach was like, oh, let's throw money at them. I'm sure they will produce something, right? And I think they finally learned that it's more about proper management of these studios, just like Sony does, right? I mean, like, I'm not saying that Sony is not spending a lot of money on their games. They do, but they also properly managing those studios, right? And that I think that's what Microsoft is trying to do here as well. They want developers that can manage themselves, but also they can manage resources wisely, so they don't necessarily grow too exponentially. Because let's face it, like, it's really difficult to manage like a huge studio with like 500 or 600 people.
Sure, absolutely.
And imagine a studio that is like that employs like 100 developers and produce games like, I don't know. I mean, Days Gone. I mean, is a good example that it has its problems, obviously. But hey, I mean, 100 developers made that game in like what, 3 years or something like that, right? So yeah, Asobo would fit this kind of template, Microsoft's Xbox Game Studios template perfectly, because it's like rather small studio right now, and they are working on multiple projects. So in the future, they could drop a number of games on Xbox Game Pass as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that would be a great fit.
I agree. I think that would be an amazing fit, and they have a lot of traits of another team that continually seems to shock us all on how good and talented they are, and that's Ninja Theory.
Boom, can I interject real quick?
Please, by all means.
Yeah, so Mott's actually brought up a really, I thought, good point with Microsoft kind of, I think you said maybe learned their lesson or maybe shifted their strategy with how they were kind of what I was calling like outsourcing games. Like, we know about Scalebound.
I mean, I think they did. I just hope so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So it seems like that, at least on the surface. And that's the one thing I think that kind of really excites me about the moves that Microsoft's made with investing in first party. Like, if we go back to just look at the history of the Xbox per se. You look at they really have relied heavily in the past on second party, third party studios to make exclusive content. Yeah.
Yes.
And now they're not doing that. And so I thought that was a great point by Mods. Like, and that's the one thing for me, as somebody who's been in that Xbox ecosystem for, God, this is crazy, like 20 years now, that they're doing this now, because I think there's potentially some quality control potentially, that where they can take these smaller studios, help them grow, give them whatever resources they need, create kind of that collaborative environment that we've heard that they're trying to do, which what Sony does, I think, very well with their first party. So I think that to me is what really excites me. And I like the fact that Microsoft in some ways is also allowing these studios, even though in some instances I'm a little critical about giving them too much freedom, but that's a whole nother, I don't want to go down that path, but I like the fact that they're at least trying to foster that creative environment for these studios to come in and hopefully, do some good work and put out some good content. So I just wanted to kind of add that because I thought that Mods brought up a really, really great point there.
No, that's actually a fantastic point. Real quick before we get over to Zemi, because I know Zemi is chomping at the bit, because I actually wrote this with him in mind, which is why I made him go last, because I know he's going to have a lot to say. I have to thank Daniel Lawson with the outstanding and very generous $5 super chat. He says, I think Microsoft, and this is interesting, should buy Sega and use them to push the console in Asia under Sega's name. That would be pretty interesting. There has been talk about them buying Sega. I don't know how many
they tried with the OG Xbox.
Yeah, they did. Because obviously everything was on the OG Xbox that was Sega. Now, I don't know. I mean, Sega, they're not the same Sega as we grew up with, but they're still a dominant force, and they still have a ton of great IPs. Real quick, Zemi, before I get to you, as you can see on the bottom of the screen is the scrolling text list for channel members. And if you have been a long-time subscriber, if you want to support Double Barrel Gaming for as low as $5 per month to get some really cool, originally designed emojis from the graphic god who has been a supporter of this channel since the beginning, head over to when you're done watching the video, there's a join button. All you have to do is hit that join button, and you, of course, can be on this list as you've seen scrolling at the bottom. It's constantly being updated, and we're getting new and more people each and every week. So I want to thank everybody that's on this list for supporting Double Barrel Gaming and joining the channel through the subscription. Real quick before we get into it, of course, Elemental PO drops an outstanding and very generous additional $10. He said Star Citizen is an amazing looking PvE sci-fi game for the PC from the creators of Wing Commander. Do you see it? It says, do you see its AAA single player campaign Squadron 42 coming to Game Pass, PC or consoles next gen? That's very interesting. Obviously, Star Citizen is a game that's been worked on for what seems like a decade, right? And it gets more vast by the moment. Could that come to Xbox Game Pass PC? Well, if it did, it's going to move subscriptions for sure, because that does look pretty incredible. But Zemi Games, I want to go to you because we were talking pregame, and you obviously get a chance to read these show notes prior to us going live, because I send them usually 2 or 3 days before. And when I decided to write this one, believe it or not, came to me last night or yesterday afternoon while I was playing A Plague's Tale. And I'm like, I think I'm going to write an original content, and that's what I've been doing lately. I've been writing more than I'm playing. My game score is suffering for it. I want to get to 300,000 K. I hope I get there in the next couple of months. I'm close. I'm still like maybe 22,000 gamer score away from that. I'd like to hit that milestone. But Zemi, you're the cog, if you will, that pushed me in the direction. You said, boom, you have to play this game. It's amazing. I know you're going to love it. And you've played it. You're thinking about playing it again. I'm playing it. I'm loving it. I just sold a copy for Asobo to Enrique, who's going to buy it. Mads beat it in 3 days. He was so addicted. I hope that everyone in the chat checks out this game. For you personally, do you want to see Asobo Studios become a major player for Xbox Game Studios?
Yeah, no, 100% I do. I mean, I absolutely fell in love with A Plague Tale before I even beat it, just by looking at it and just seeing the trailer, seeing, the artwork that's in that game. I fell in love with that game before I even played it. And like whenever I first launched in there, I'm not going to spoil anything, but you're walking through the woods with your father, and it just looks absolutely beautiful, breathtaking. And from that point, I was in, and I actually got a copy of the game to review, and I literally, like, I usually don't want to, play the game more or wait more than a week before I review, right? And like, the game probably takes maybe 10-12 hours, maybe a little bit more if you go through and get all the collectibles and stuff, but it took me days to beat, because I, like, every day I was like rationing it out, like, how much am I going to get this day, because I didn't want to beat it. It was so good. And so if Xbox was able to acquire them, honestly, like, Obsidian so far is the biggest company that I'm the most excited that is now a part of the, Xbox Game Studios family. Asobo Studios would probably trump, Obsidian for me. And
wow, that's saying something.
I just love that game so much. You were talking about Ninja Theory and how it really reminds you of Ninja Theory, but I'll actually go a step further. It really reminds me of, those strong narrative PlayStation games, whether it's Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, even Last of Us, or the Uncharted series. It really reminds me of those really well created, beautiful worlds that Sony has been able to, become almost the masters of, if you will. And honestly, if they did make a sequel, and Mads, you said that they are, which got me really excited. Like, my eyes lit up whenever you said that.
I mean, that's not unofficial information, but yeah, they did sign up for another game, and a lot of people, say that that's the sequel. So yeah. There's hope for it.
I mean, I'll put it like this. I would rather play, if I could only play one of two games, if I could either only play Last of Us 2 or A Plague Tale 2, I would go A Plague Tale all the way. I mean, I absolutely love that world. What they did with the gameplay, what they did with the graphics, the storyline, the narrative.
Puzzles were so unique, dude.
Yes. I mean, and they weren't super complicated. Like, that's one thing that always gets me about puzzle games. It's like, oh man, I'm going to be stuck here for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to have to go watch like a YouTube tutorial to get through. And it's not like that at all. They're complicated enough that they will kind of stump you, but you can usually get past them in maybe about 10-15 minutes. Like, everything that game did was just done absolutely beautifully well. And not only to talk about that, like, this flight simulator game, which I think is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems like it is the largest game that has probably ever been created. Because I believe, like, it was like 2 petabytes of data.
Yes.
I don't even think you're going to be able to download this game on your Xbox. It's probably going to be like a stream only title, unless you can download like a certain, section of the map and just can't go out of bounds or something. But
the whole world is your playground, from what we understand, right?
Absolutely. Like, you can fly over your house and like look out. Like, Mom, we live there. Like, you know what I mean? Like the world is so freaking huge. And for, Asobo to make, in my opinion, the best game of 2019, and then also, on the other hand, be able to create this that is completely different, that is beautiful, that, is using new technology that a lot of people probably would have never thought of. I mean, using like Bing satellite photos to make the world and make it look beautiful is absolutely fantastic. I mean, they are a super, super talented team over there, and I think Xbox would be all the better if they took them, or if they were able to purchase them somehow.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we don't know if they already have. We don't know if there's been talks. I think that, again, I think Enrique said this. They fit that mold that Microsoft looks for: a smaller developer, anywhere between 100 to 150 employees. It's small enough for them to manage. Obviously, they've worked with them before, very closely, I might add, and now they're working on an exclusive for both the PC and the Xbox Series X. It appears, so they have a working relationship, and to see this talent on display in both 2019 and now going to be 2020, there's a lot to be excited about. I'm very interested to see exactly what they're going to be doing. But I want to move on to the next topic because obviously this is something that's a little it's personal. It's a personal thing. I'm going to bring up the stat right now. Now, in a story that I pulled from Game Rant and is a massive dagger to the heart of all Killer Instinct fans across the globe, a new Killer Instinct is not currently in active development for the series. The Xbox Series X for launch. And that sucks. That sucks to high heaven. I am very disappointed. I was calling this. I was calling this or trying to will it to fruition because when the Xbox One released, Killer Instinct released with it, it's probably one of my all-time favorite fighting games. It's probably one of my all-time favorite launch games for consoles as a whole. And I really thought in my heart of hearts that we were going to get a proper Killer Instinct 2 simply because Microsoft has a lot of things covered, right? You look at the first-person shooter genre, they have that covered with Halo Infinite. They have a new Forza, whether that's going to be Horizon Zero Dawn, Forza Horizon 5, or Motorsport 8 more specifically. They have the driving covered. We're probably going to get Gears Tactics. So there's your tactic-based, type of game. And, they're going to have a few others. Flight Sim could possibly be one of them. There's your flight type of game. But the one game that they could add that could change up, because, they want diversity within their titles, within Game Pass, would have been an amazing new fighter. And, look, I think it's blatantly obvious. I've been a huge Killer Instinct since the days of the Nathan's Arcade on Central Avenue in Yonkers, New York. My brother Neo Mental, Jay the Retro Gamer, and Jay the Destroyer all used to play that game in the Hall of Arcades that now is a distant memory. Now, Killer Instinct is a fighting game developed by Rare and published by Midway and Nintendo, originally released in arcades in 1994. And back then, I was a shiny, brand new green rookie for the New York City Police Department. And you know what? I remember going to the arcade, still a big old nerd, playing that with my brother and my friends. And back then, it was rumored to have been using the Ultra 64 hardware engine. And in reality, though, the arcade hardware was co-developed by both Rare and Midway. Now, the revival of the Killer Instinct franchise happened on November 22nd of 2013, and it shocked just about everyone who grew up with the series in the mid-90s. And this was and still remains one of the most unique fighters ever made. Now, originally developed by Double Helix Games, who was purchased by Amazon Games Division, the first-party fighter then went on to have multiple seasons with Iron Galaxy at the helm, and they did amazing work for this incredible fighter that still is still a dominant fighter in the genre. Now, as the next generation and E3 2020 creeps ever so closely, that both Enrique and I will be meeting for the first time because we're going, Mads is going to be in the compound as well. That's right. And Zemi is thinking about going. I actually be able to meet everybody in person, which is going to be really exciting. Microsoft has already told us about Halo Infinite, Hellblade, with many speculating on several big first party joining the fray. Killer Instinct was supposedly, in my mind, going to be one of those games, and unfortunately, I was completely wrong. Now, Iron Galaxy developer Adam Hart confirmed on Twitter that the studio's next game, unfortunately, will not be Killer Instinct. In fact, he admitted that there are still a lot of work to do to work on the game that they're currently developing. So it's possible that that may not even release this year. So if that in fact is the case, and somehow the game that they're currently working on, which from what I understand is an exclusive for the Xbox, that's not Killer Instinct, would push Killer Instinct 2 way out further, maybe into 2021, possibly 2022, making me want to throw up in my mouth. Now, I've tweeted about this numerous times, and one of the biggest Killer Instinct fans made a video where he directed the question of Killer Instinct 2's existence to Phil Spencer, pleading his very strong case for a proper Killer Instinct 2. So here's my question, and I'll start with Mads Gaming on this. What are your thoughts on a new Killer Instinct being made, and should Phil Spencer and company listen to the fan base? But more importantly, what are your personal thoughts on the long-running franchise? Does it deserve a sequel?
Hey, Boom, I don't mean to interrupt. I actually have to get
No,
back
it's
to work,
okay.
man,
You have to go?
Yeah, I got to go, man. But no, I want to say thank you, man, for letting me hop on, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, listen, dude, thank you for being here. We appreciate you here for 2 topics. Go take care of some business, my brother, and we'll be talking soon.
All right, man. Sounds good. I'll catch you guys later. See you.
All right. Take care, bro. All right, so I'll go back to you, Mads. I mean, are you in agreement with me that, because Microsoft has a lot of these different genres covered, the only one that's in question at this point would be a strong fighter, which they have in their repertoire. Do you think that Killer Instinct 2 deserves to see the light of day on next-gen consoles?
I think it does deserve. I mean, like, let's face it. I mean, like, with each generation, whether that's PlayStation or Xbox, we always were getting some form of fighter. I remember Dead or Alive on OG Xbox, right? That was
yes, that was great.
Xbox 360 got Dead or Alive 3, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
But that was a multi-platform game back then. But either way, there was a good fighter at the start of the generation as well. Now we got with Xbox One, we got Killer Instinct. And I think that was a great game. Now, obviously, a lot of people were kind of like complaining about like 720p and stuff, usual stuff back in the day, right? But they actually even like increased the quality of it. They increased the resolution because there was like 3 seasons, I think we can call it.
Yeah, it's a total of 3. Yes.
Yeah. So, and that was a pretty good game. And even though I'm not really a fighter kind of guy, right? I don't really play a lot of these games. I did enjoy Killer Instinct for what it was in my couple of hours play of that game. So really, and I did hear what you said. I did hear stories about like some big Killer Instinct kind of guy, YouTuber kind of like was making the videos that that the game is probably not in development. Now you brought up this article. I've heard Jess Corden and Randall Thor the other day talking about Killer Instinct 2, and they are convinced that this game is not in development either. So I guess it's a shame because, like, if you look at the whole portfolio of different games that Microsoft is kind of working on with both first party and third party developers, I mean, they don't have any fighters, right? They've got like action games now in development, racing, cover shooters, first person, shooters, RPGs, games for kids. And I mean, Killer Instinct 2 or that kind of game would be a good fit for like for a launch title, right? Especially that, not sure if you heard, but I mean that's just a rumor, but apparently Sony is working with Capcom on Street Fighter. Would that be 6?
It would be 6. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I've heard some rumors that Sony want to make this exclusive for PlayStation 5 as well, and that would be dropping around PlayStation 5 launch period, right? I mean, not necessarily day one, but
it could come within the first 3 months in that launch window.
Yeah, so not having that kind of game on Xbox, I don't really want to say that it might hurt the brand or whatever, but it's not really a great fan service because a lot of people want to play this game, right? But I mean, like, obviously the fact that this this studio is working on some other game, I mean, it kind of like suggests that Killer Instinct is not in development.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm just thinking that maybe Microsoft could give this franchise to somebody else.
I agree. Absolutely.
I mean, Double Helix did start the development of this game. They did finish the season 1, and then somebody else took over. So why not to do it again? I mean that's just a possibility, obviously. So yeah, I would like to see Killer Instinct 2 on Xbox. Yeah.
Well, the name of the YouTuber, he currently has 1.17 million subscribers. Maximilian Dood, Dood. And he's amazing. He's an amazing content creator. He is I mean, there's no better or bigger fighter fan than him, and there's no bigger or better Killer Instinct fan than him. And he did this video, and he directed it at Phil Spencer. I'm going to add his video to the show notes after the show. So if you're interested and you want to watch it, I highly recommend it. It was fantastic. And in regards to Sony's PlayStation 5 exclusive, in regards to Street Fighter 6, I've heard some things as well. I've heard that they want it to be exclusive. I don't think Capcom is going to go for that, because the reason, and I have this as confirmed information, the reason why Capcom made that exclusive deal with Sony is because back then, as I've talked about on my show numerous times, Capcom was on the verge of bankruptcy. And that Street Fighter V would have never been made without the assistance of Sony and this PlayStation 4. And
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean that's what I've heard. I've heard that from behind the scenes, that is why the deal was made. Now, is there any truth to that? Well, I can't say for certain, because I'm not sitting on the boardroom for Capcom, unfortunately, making six figures, though I would like to, because they're my favorite company. But it may, like you were just saying, it does make sense. That's why they made that deal. It's exactly why they made that deal back in the days for the Dead Rising series to be an exclusive, because they needed the cash flow. Now, this is a much different Capcom in 2020 as opposed to 2016 Capcom. And since 2017's Resident Evil 7 revival of the franchise, they have been hitting on all cylinders, and they're making monies hands over fist, being a multi-plat developer. So do I see Street Fighter 6 potentially being a timed exclusive for Sony? That is definitely possible. I am going to say, do I see it being a permanent exclusive? Highly unlikely, and here's the reason why. Street Fighter 5, if you don't know, is currently the worst selling a Capcom Street Fighter game in the history of the franchise. Just take a step back and understand what I'm saying. Street Fighter 5 for the PlayStation 4, which was an exclusive, is the worst selling Street Fighter game in the history of Capcom. Now, with that said, if that doesn't scream, no effing way am I going to lock down Street Fighter 6 behind your console, you're insane, regardless of how much money you offer me, I don't know what will, because obviously there are tons, millions of fans on the Xbox brand and on the PC, for that matter, that would be dying for a proper Killer Instinct. Oh my God, a proper,
and on the Switch.
Yeah,
don't forget the Switch.
Don't forget the Switch. I don't know if they could do it, but maybe they could. I don't know. I mean, I'm expecting some big things from Street Fighter 6, but I don't think that is going to be an exclusive. But Zemi, now that you chimed in, let me get your opinion on this. Obviously, you know my opinion of Killer Instinct. It's my favorite fighter of all time. I still harken back to the days of playing in Nathan's arcade, when Nathan's was an arcade, when arcades were a thing back in the mid 90s. And I do miss that. And I remember playing that game and saying, my God, this is amazing. I can't believe what I'm playing. Do you want to see a Killer Instinct 2? And more importantly, do you think that that Microsoft needs to add diversity to their lineup that includes a fighting game?
So I guess to answer that question, I should probably say at the very beginning, I've never played Killer Instinct like ever. I've never played that game.
Shame on you, man.
I know.
Boo this man, chat. Boo this man.
Fake gamer. But I have heard a lot of the game from a lot of different people, and I have had a ton of different friends on Xbox that have played the game and loved the game and been addicted to it and everything like that. And a lot of them have always tried to get me into it, and I just never downloaded it. What can I say? So it does suck that it's not being developed as a launch title right now. It's not even being developed. That does suck. Hopefully there will be a sequel, eventually. But I mean, it definitely does suck. And then to answer your other question, I think diversity and variety in the games that Xbox produces is super, super important. You know what I mean? I think it's important to have the RPGs. It's important to have the platformers, the shooters, the multiplayer game, the over-the-shoulder shooters. And of course, I think it's important for them to, have fighting games as well. And how important is it to have it as a lineup, like a first party launch title? I don't know. I can't really say, but I know that a lot of people are upset, and for them, I definitely feel for them, and hopefully maybe everyone can get together and tweet at Phil Spencer, and maybe something will happen.
That's a great point. Yes, I'm going to join the frontier and with Maximilian and try and get this willed into existence. Real quick though, I have to thank two people. First of all, Pixel Bit G with the outstanding and very generous $10 super chat. He says KI was a first Game Pass type game. That is very true. First in Play Anywhere. I supported a day one with 1,000 hours. Wow, dude, you have blown me out of the water of hours of play. It sucks if it's not a launch game, and I don't think it's going to be unless Microsoft is really just psyching us all out and holding us close to the vest. Plus, if Street Fighter 6 is an exclusive he said it's going to be an epic fail for Capcom if it is an exclusive, and I agree 1,000% there. And I have to thank Antonio Alicia in the chat, who's always here supporting Double Barrel Gaming. They say Street Fighter 5 should go on to the Switch, but he brought up an interesting. Yeah, here he goes. Here's the stat. Now this is gross, folks. This is how you know this is not a good thing. Currently there's 105 million PlayStation 4s in the world. This was according to Jim Ryan during CES. Right now, as of this show, according to Alicia, and I believe he's right, 3 million copies of Street Fighter 5 sold. And he says no bueno. And I agree. That is ridiculous when you have an exclusive have that low of an install base to 105 million. Shame on you, PlayStation fans. Boo those fans for not supporting it. Even though the game was broken in the beginning, it is a masterful type of game now. And they actually do have I don't know if it's a game of the year type of everything is going to be included. I think it's $30. I have mine pre-ordered on Amazon. I think it's $30. It's every piece of DLC and all the characters and all their outfits are included for $30. I say get out there and support Capcom because that's big. And Daniel Lawson with the with the $2 super chat. Thank you, Daniel. He says, "Boo!" I love it. But you know what? This is this was an originally written topic only because I'm so passionate about Killer Instinct. Do I think anyone from Microsoft is listening to this small show? Probably not. But you know what? I wanted to throw it out there anyway. I mean, last week we had almost 700 people watching. This week we have almost 300 people watching. So that's maybe the word will get out. But I want to move on to the next topic. And I think it's a good one. And I have to thank someone in the community because I wrote this topic based on a picture that they posted. Now, as we know, the industry and Microsoft are starting preparations for E3 2020. And this year is going to be one for the ages. And that's without saying. What makes E3 2020 so special is pretty obvious, I would say. The launch of both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. The question that everyone will be asking is, when will Microsoft be showing off the alleged Xbox Series S? Now, this topic is what we're going to focus on for this particular topic. When should Microsoft hold the event, and how big does this event need to be? Well, thanks to community member, you've seen him in the chat, Mr. Kima. He posted something on Twitter from AMD that appears to be basically letting the cat out of the bag, so to speak. So I'm going to pull that up on the screen. Let me see if I have it here. Did I put it in here? If I did, I'm going to be so mad at myself. Bloody hell. You know what? I have to pull this up. Just give me a second while I'm going to read exactly what it says. First of all, it's a CES corporate keynote from AMD. And on there, it says AMD announces a press conference at CES 2020, hosted by AMD President and CEO Dr. Lisa Su. And this was obviously posted. It was pre-posted. It was, for Monday, January 6th, which is this week. And at the bottom, and I will pull this up in a second, it says the AMD Radeon high-end RDNA 2 powered graphics chip with ray tracing and variable rate bit shading. Performance figures will not be revealed, but a game demo will be shown with ray tracing in action second quarter 2020, possibly in May or June release. Now, this says a lot to me. Personally, I think Microsoft is going to get all hardware talk out of the way for E3. Why do I say that? Because we just want to see game after game after game, and we want those to be banger after banger after banger. And if they do have this event where they talk specs, where they talk Xbox Series X, what it looks like, side by side with the Series X, which we're all thinking it's going to be a smaller console, looking probably like this. This is what I brought up on another show earlier. It could potentially look like this, about this size, because obviously it's only going to be 4 teraflops. It's not going to be as powerful as the PS5 or even remotely close to the Xbox Series X, but it's still going to be more powerful than the current X that we all have. Mads, I want to go to you first on this. And I'm going to pull up that picture that I just that I'm looking at. I want the chat to take a look at as well. Do you think that it's important for Microsoft to have their own event, to get all of the spec talk out of the way, so they can save the price drop, the price point of both these consoles for E3, and then just fill it with games?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Microsoft really needs to do that because, like you said, E3 is just around is actually about the games, and we now know that Microsoft has a lot of games to cover, right? Even like whatever your thoughts on XO19 was. You cannot deny the fact that they shown a lot of games, right?
Yes, yes.
Whether these games were good or for you or not, that's totally different story, right? But in terms of like quantity, they had a lot of games, and I think that that's not going to change moving forward. They will have just like we were discussing the Asobo situation and stuff, right? They've got a lot of studios that actually work on multiple projects, right? So they will have a ton of new content every each in every show they will have, right? Whether that's E3, Gamescom, or whatever, right? So I think E3 is really going to be about games.
Yes,
now, obviously, I sure hope, and I mean, that's really my belief that at E3 they will actually focus on the biggest games, so like Halo, and whatever other launch titles going to come, and probably some games that will actually launch shortly after the Xbox Series X release. So I think that's going to be the main focus. But obviously, they will also talk about Game Pass, because they always do. I'm sure they will be talking about cloud, because they always do. So, if you really count all those different segments, like 10 minutes on Game Pass, 10 minutes on that, 10 minutes on that, I mean, you're not really left a lot with talk about hardware. And why is it important to have another show to really properly explain it? Because there's a lot of stuff to cover, like in terms of what kind of specs, new technologies, how things work, how that's going to impact your gaming performance, gaming experience, right? Because it's new generation. So there's going to be a lot of different people explaining all that stuff. So 10 or 15 minute segment during E3 is not enough, right? I mean, yes, you can talk about the price. You can reveal the release date. Obviously, you can go through quickly go through specs and whatever, right? But you cannot really dive deep into this, right? And that's why you need, and Microsoft will probably need a proper show. Now, here's the thing. I'm not necessarily sure if they need a show, because Xbox One X example is a great one, where they basically just they just worked with Digital Foundry, and Digital Foundry made a series of different videos covering everything in great detail, right?
Oh, that's smart. Yes, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Me personally, I would actually prefer that kind of approach, right? I would prefer Digital Foundry to break all the news really and talk about the specs and everything. But at the same time, I'm just thinking that it would. That kind of digital kind of articles are great for guys like me, right? That tech savvy. I love that kind of stuff. And these articles are usually long. A lot of numbers is in there, right? And I think I'm not entirely sure if that would be good for casuals, especially if they really want to reach casual market with Xbox Series S, right? So I think that they may still do their own show just to kind of, show the benefits of both consoles and say, listen, this is the premium console for premium guys, for guys who wants the best of the console. But there's another budget console that still has all kinds of benefits, but it's $200 cheaper, for example, right?
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure they will have some sort of reveal event. The only question is, are they going to do a proper show, or are they going to work with likes of Digital Foundry, for example, to do it, right? So that's the only thing I'm not entirely sure. But that's still just my opinion, obviously. So, yeah.
Well, listen, you make a lot of sense for sure. First of all, I actually didn't even consider that, considering how well the Digital Foundry situation went for them with the Xbox One X. I think they could potentially return to that, because they are the source, or the creme de la creme when you talk about comparing PC parts and consoles to, and really breaking down the nitty-gritty of the numbers, stuff that sometimes goes over my head. If you said it for yourself that you love stuff like that because you understand it, whereas me, I do understand it to an extent, but I don't. I just want to sit in front of my console and play. So the actual numbers don't mean as much to me as they would for you, or a guy like D Batch or Colt Eastwood or Dealer Gaming. These are folks that understand the in and outs of what puts what makes these consoles as powerful as they are. I do agree with you, though. I think that a separate event outside of the specs aspect, maybe doing an hour show showing off what the Series X is going to look like next to its big brother, Again, speculation town we're walking through, we don't know. I mean, we have heard that from dealer himself, who knows people on the inside, that Lockhart is real. I've been banging that drum for an entire year. Said it's there. It's Microsoft's Trojan horse, and I've been called a lunatic for that, and that's fine. That's fine. But when it comes to fruition, I'm going to be looking for apologies. So that's all I'm going to say that right now.
Are we going to be talking about the price aspect of these consoles later on? Or?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a great question, because
so in that case, just two things I just wanted to say about these consoles, because
Sure.
like we obviously we started talking about we started the show talking about like PlayStation 5 and why they potentially went with cheap, lower price than higher performance. And I think that when you look at what Microsoft is doing, and they will most likely offer two consoles, and I really do believe that Xbox Series X is going to be $500. I really do.
Me too. I agree with you there.
And even Albert Pinello, you did see the tweet, I think, right?
Yes, I did. I did see that.
Albert Pinello. So he was dealing with the business side of things, because he was like director of sales of Xbox or something like that. So he knows how these things work, because I'm sure he was on these meetings. He knows how much stuff costs. And he basically said it's not about how much powerful this chip is going to be. Doesn't matter how many new features and how many new cores this chip is going to have. All what matters is the actual size of the actual chip, right? Because the bigger it is, that more expensive it gets to produce. But when you switch the processes from like 16 nanometers that these current consoles are produced on to 7 nanometers, right? I mean, all the transistors are getting smaller, so you can actually cram like twice as many of them on the same size of the chip. And obviously, the new process costs a little bit more, but it's not like, hey, it's twice as expensive because it offers twice the power, right? So I really do think that this cost is manageable, and just like Albert Penel said, because he was actually rather talking about PlayStation 5 and $400 price point, right? And he said, like, with 1 terabyte hard drive, SSD hard drive, 16 gigabytes of GDDR6, and 8 to 9 teraflops and Zen 2 cores, he believes that it's doable to actually produce, manufacture, pack, and ship these consoles for $400 retail. So I mean, and the last thing is that I really do hope that it's not really a hope. Xbox Series S must be $300
$299. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
They cannot go like $400, because it will be dead on arrival.
Yeah, no, that's great. A point. If the PlayStation 5 is at 400, that comes with a UHD Blu-ray drive, where you have the ability to play discs. You can't offer that at the same price, for regardless of how good or not the console is going to be. That would have to be at least $100 cheaper. But I have a question for you from JD Gamer Mads, who drops an outstanding, very generous $5 super chat. Thank you, JD, for being here, but thank you for your generosity. And this is what he asks you, man. He says, Mads, rumor has it that the Lockhart SoC is about half the size of the XSX. I've done some math, and that's about the size of a 5600 XT. What do you think?
Well, I haven't really seen the rumor, but if we go by teraflops, and I know that some people will say, oh, teraflops doesn't matter. Well, they do matter, because teraflops actually are like cheap specs, right?
Yeah,
because
that's correct, yes.
Teraflops doesn't tell you everything about the performance, but teraflops do tell you about the number of cores and shading cores and whatever, right? So obviously it's more complicated than that. But I mean, if Xbox Series X is to be 12 teraflops machine, and this smaller one is to be like 4 plus something teraflops, so obviously the size of the chip, at least of the GPU side of things, will probably be at least half size, because they may still play with the clocks and stuff, right? So it's doable. And but if that's the case, then the actual chip might be actually even smaller than RX 5700 XT, just like JD Gamer said. So it's not really going to be expensive to produce. I can tell you that.
Okay, well, that's. I'm glad you actually broke that down. I appreciate the technical prowess that you bring to today's show. But let me, Zemi, I want to go to you now. Obviously, we don't know. Again, let me just say this. First of all, if there's one thing that stands out to me on how Microsoft is positioning itself, Zemi, and how the momentum has shifted since December 12th, 2019, everything has changed. And this generation situation that we currently have in front of us reminds me of, and I'm going to bring it up, sports. Buster Douglas versus Iron Mike Tyson. That fight was incredible. No one saw it coming, and the cocky Sony discounted the drive of what Phil Spencer, at least what it appears, they discounted the drive the same way Iron Mike discounted this bum called Buster Douglas, came in the ring, beat the balls off of him, and got the TKO. And this could happen. Now, the question that I have for you, Zemi, is in the documentation that's right in front of us. It's lined out by green. A game is going to be demoed using ray tracing, right? In May, possibly June. Now, it makes more sense for May, because why do it in June? Because that's E3, and I think they're going to want to just do game to show off something where it's their own controlled event. Sounds more like something Microsoft would do. And again, this is a Microsoft that's much different than it was from 2013. This is a much more confident Microsoft. This is a much more swagger-ridden Phil Spencer than we've seen this entire generation. For you, Zemi, do you want to see them have their own event? And more importantly, what game is it? Is it Halo Infinite? Is it Forza Horizon Motorsport? Is it Cyberpunk 2077, where they show off this game running on the Series X? What are your thoughts, dude?
I mean, just my first thoughts by looking at this is I'm not 100% convinced that it's anything really to do with Xbox. And the reason I say that is because obviously AMD, they make graphics cards, they make CPUs for computers, and this RDNA 2, I would imagine they're going to use that for their upcoming line of graphics cards and stuff like that. So this show might just be showcasing its capability on like the PC side of things, and they may not even bring up its capabilities with Xbox. And I might be wrong as well. Well,
the only reason why I bring it up, the only reason why I even considered writing this is because the PlayStation 5 is supposed to support RDNA 2, where Microsoft's Beast is supposed to support RDNA 2.
Yes.
So, again, we're walking through speculation town, folks.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought it might be an interesting thought and something that we could discuss, that if obviously it does come to fruition and the RDNA 2 architecture is going to be put into the Xbox Series X, could they be referring to this as showing off a game demo?
Yeah, I mean, and they completely could be. I might be completely wrong. But it's just like whenever I read it, it just kind of seems more like maybe they're going to be showing off like RDNA 2 and their in like a future graphics card that they're going to be releasing for as like PC components. But just going by your theory, I think the game that would probably make the most sense to show off would be Halo Infinite, because it's going to be day one available on the new hardware. A lot of it's a super anticipated title, and it just looks absolutely fantastic from what we saw, believe last E3. With like the little cockpit trailer. So I think that Halo Infinite would probably make the most sense as a game to be shown off. And like you guys were also talking about before, I think it makes a whole lot of sense to, have all of the, like the hardware talk, the deep, specs of both of these systems talked about either before or maybe even after E3. Or possibly.
That's true. That you might be onto something there, because I actually never thought about that. Maybe doing something after E3, but I would rather them not. I want them to get everything out front and in the open for E3. Drop the hammer, say this is what it is, and maybe talk price during E3. But then again, that's still the question: when do they go on price? Do they wait for Sony to drop their price? You know what I'm saying? Again, we didn't talk about this, and I'm gonna come back to Mads on this for a second, but I'm gonna pose this question to you right now. Right now, we're only in speculation town. We don't know how aggressive Microsoft is going to want to get. Do they cut the throat? Do they go for the jugular of Sony and wait for Sony to, which they're probably gonna do, come up on stage at E3 and say, PlayStation is going to have these amazing games, and here's a quick snippet video of what to expect. And then they say price $399.99. The crowd goes bananas, and of course, then the tweets. PS5, the PlayStation has won E3. That's what we're going to hear. Mm-hmm. But what if Microsoft holds back? What if they say, you know what? We don't need to show our price. Let's pull a Sony. Let's let them announce their price and then cut their throats from ear to ear. And right after they announce it, come out and say, yep, well, it's good that the PlayStation 9.2 teraflops is $399. Well, ours is $399 as well. So we have power, price, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. And a lot of that falls down to who is going to go on the show first. You know what I mean? Is PlayStation...
Well, they're probably going that Sunday. They always go first.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's Microsoft. They always go first.
Yeah.
Would I like to see them go second and let Sony go first? Hell yeah, I would. But maybe they hold back the price until they see what Sony's releasing it for.
I mean, that's completely plausible as well. But you also have to remember, though, too, is I think Microsoft, probably more than maybe any generation before, they are very confident in the product or products that they're going to be releasing. And especially if they have the 2 SKU, approach, if they have the Lockhart and if they have, the Series X, even if the Series X is $100 more, I seriously doubt that PlayStation is going to be able to match the price of the Lockhart.
No, so, of course not. Yeah.
So either way, I think that they're going to have, the like the price and the performance one way or another. So I don't know if it's necessarily, would be like the greatest thing for them just to hold off just to see what, Sony is doing. I mean, because, as it is right now, Xbox seems to be leading their charge. You know what I mean? They're playing, this game by their rules, by no one else's. And, it just doesn't seem like the type of thing this Xbox right now would do is to hold off and see what Sony's going to do and then copy them. You know what I mean? But just bouncing back to like the previous topic, I think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to show a ton of games, for them to unveil, the Series S that we all, really, really think that they're going to do. Right. And then also, talk a little bit about the consoles. Don't give a ton of, don't give like a ton of, I guess hardware talk. Just kind of, just give like a rundown of this is the X, this will do this is the S, this will do this. To give a price point, show off a ton of games. And I think that would be a lot better to do, because also we need to remember that Xbox is, rumored to be showing off 2 different SKUs. That's 2 different consoles, 2 completely different specs. And that's going to do, and if they showed all of that during one show, it's going to definitely confuse a lot of the consumers that are watching, because E3 is really about, the games, what new games are coming out. It's also about showing off like the new hardware and stuff like that. But I don't think a lot of consumers really care about the deep and gritty, numbers and all that for, these different consoles. I think it would be a lot better just to either hold it off at the end of E3 and just give that information to, like Mads was saying, Digital Foundry, correct? I believe that's what he was saying. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a great option, or, possibly even, have like their own dedicated Inside Xbox where they talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it is with Insight. I wouldn't trust Larry Herb and those guys to pull off a technical savvy, specs related show. Nothing against
That
them
is
as
true.
people. I just think that that's not in their wheelhouse personally, and wouldn't trust to see them do it off right. The way that we've had some cringe related situations in the past. I agree with Mads on the on letting Digital Foundry go crazy with the box. Here's the box. Go crazy with it. Run whatever you want to run on it. Do your test. Put it out there. Because I think Microsoft is even more confident with this new console, with the X, the Series X, as opposed to the Xbox One X. And I think that would be a fair way to do it. Let Digital Foundry, they're the end all when it comes to specs. Mads, before we get out of here and we do the outros, I just want to grab your opinion on that. Do you agree that they hold on price and wait to see what Sony does?
I mean, they could, but I'm not entirely sure if that would change anything because, I don't think that any of these companies would change the price of these boxes, like last minute. Because if you really think about it, they build like the whole strategy around the cost of production and the price and how much they're going to get and whatever, right? So, I mean, I don't necessarily think that one company going first with the price over the other would make any would actually change any of these companies' kind of stance on their pricing strategy. Because I really believe that these kind of things are decided way before that kind of events, and then they kind of I mean, I guess later on they could do promotions or whatever to tackle some sales issues or whatever, right? But I think that the I don't think they would change any of these companies, that they would change the price, based on their competitors, kind of like.
The reason I say that is because it until someone writes a book, we'll never know. But it has been almost basically confirmed that the PlayStation 4 was launching at $499 with the camera in the box, and they took it out at the last minute. So Sony went to that stage with an entirely rewritten presentation. That's how this is how You Share Games came from. They recorded that literally while they were at E3, and then the $399 price point, $100 cheaper, was that decision apparently was made at E3, literally hours before they were supposed to go live at 8:00 that evening, after seeing the reception that Microsoft went with. So that was a gut to a dagger to the gut from Microsoft. And again, Microsoft, this is a different Microsoft, Mads. This is a very aggressive Microsoft. And could you don't see they're going to do a thing. I seem to think that if they really want to kick them when they're down, to really keep this mind share theft that took place on December 12th and they have not relinquished yet, that's what I would do if I was in charge. But that's just me. That's why I'm sitting in behind a mic and I'm not running Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, Microsoft is acting a bit differently recently, which is great because, like you said, they are way more aggressive. But I don't know. I still got this old kind of Microsoft ways in my head, stuck in my head, and I know it's going to take a while, but in terms of pricing and stuff, you did see what they did with Xbox One, digital edition, right? I mean, look, all they had to do with this console was to drop the price, and it was selling like crazy, right?
Yep.
So I know it's a new generation, and I hope they're not going to be making any stupid decisions with regards to the pricing. And to be honest with you, for me, as long as they go with $300 Lockhart and $500 Scarlett or Xbox Series X, I'm fine. And I don't really care what Sony is going to do. I mean, they probably will go with $400 console, anyway. So I mean, but I mean, we'll see, right? But
Yeah,
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 300.
I mean, only time is going to tell. But I'm going to say this: this has been an amazing episode. We had almost 300 people watching. We got a surprise guest from Enrique from Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. We have
Master Race.
Yes, PC Master Race, Enrique. We have Mads Gaming as a special guest. Obviously, we did miss the Welsh Gamer severely, but Zemi, you held your own as usual. So let's get to that to the outros. But before I do, I have to thank JD Gamer twice, not once but twice. He drops the first $5 super chat. He says price has always been a major game of Sony's since the first E3 they attended, and still is. They are known to change price all the way up to the announcement. And yes, that is confirmed and correct. And he drops an additional $5 super chat. He says Sony's first E3 to get into the market was made famously with the $299 mic drop the mic moment that killed the Sega Saturn at $399. Sony is playing a price game. And yes, that is a great point. I totally forgot about that because yes, they did launch at $299 USD as opposed to $399 for Sega's underpowered Sega Saturn, which by the way, I owned them both. I loved it. Loved my Saturn. But Mads, first of all, dude, thank you for hanging out for 2 hours on today's Xbox Factor podcast. It's great working with you. I've worked with you before on the show that you run with a few other people. Isn't that Wednesdays you have that show?
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, every
Wednesday. So listen, do me a favor, tell everyone about that where they can tune in. We got to get some more subscribers to that show because the show is fantastic. I believe you have it with Jamie Moran from the UK and Mojo Blues, if I'm not mistaken. Both fantastic community members. Do me a favor, Matt. Tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out your amazing show.
Yeah, I mean, you can check me on Twitter, Mads Gaming PL. And obviously on YouTube, Mads Gaming, and I run Next Gen podcast every Wednesday. It's around I think it's like 4 o'clock ET, and it's around like 7:30 UK time and like 8:30 Central European time. So I guess you will have to check the time zones and stuff. So I'm not good with that really. So yeah, I mean every Wednesday, so you can check that out. We talk about like games, obviously, latest news, a lot of tech talk as well. Jamie Moran, he's got his own channel as well.
Yes, he does.
He's got his channel as well, although not many. He didn't really put a lot of content yet there. So yeah, I mean, if you want to check that out, check our show, do it every Wednesday. So yeah. And by the way, thanks a lot for having me on the show. Great talking with you guys. I really love that. So yeah, like I said, Boom, you are a great community member. Zemi Games, nice to talk with you, sharing some opinions stuff. That was like our first show. I loved it. So yeah, great show.
Thanks.
Well, definitely appreciate you being here. Thank you for the compliment, my brother. And yes, you are an amazing community member as well. And Zemi Games. Listen, dude, it was great to have you back on. We did this a second show this week. You jumped on early Tuesday. If you missed that, that was a spectacular spur of the moment show. Lasted about an hour and 20 minutes. Really, really good information there. Today, this was a content-packed show. A lot of big opinions. Hopefully, we sold a lot of copies for Asobo Studios in A Plague's Tale. Do me a favor, Zemi, tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out your amazing YouTube channel.
Absolutely. And Boom, as always, thank you so much for, setting up this show. You put so much time into setting up all the notes, making sure everybody knows what's going on. So I super appreciate that. And of course, you letting me come on this podcast every single week. It's absolutely fantastic. And so thank you so much for that. If you guys enjoyed my opinions on any of the topics, definitely check out my Twitter. It is at Zemi Games. My DMs are always open, so feel free to send me a message if you ever want to talk about gaming or anything like that. Then I also have a YouTube channel where I do gaming news, let's plays, game reviews, all sorts of gaming content. That's also called Zemi Games, and you can check me out on that as well. So thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you again, dude. Appreciate you being here, and of course, thank you for letting people know where they can find you. But more importantly, let's get this guy some more followers on Twitter. He's at 500 and something, and he's a good community member. We need to get those numbers up. This is terrible. Get out there. If you like me, I'm sure you're gonna like Zemi. Follow him on Twitter. Maybe he's not as active as I am. I am so active. It's ridiculous.
I'm really not.
I'm closing in on 80,000 tweets since 2014. It's absurd and possibly an obsession, a secret obsession that I just admitted live on the air. But of course, I want to wish everyone an amazing Thursday. Just quick update, there is no Breakfast with Boom tomorrow morning. I have a doctor's appointment with Mrs. Boomstick that we obviously can't miss. Though I will be having a Double Barrel Gaming Presents Saturday special edition episode where my brother Neomental and the two gentlemen I talked about, Jay the Retro Gamer and Jay the Destroyer, longtime friends, will be having our Game of the Year 2019. We have a whole big 2-hour show lined up. I don't know if it's going to be 2 hours. We're probably going to get about an hour and 30 minutes into it. We could go longer, but it's going to be big. That's going live at noon on Saturday afternoon. Hopefully you guys and gals can tune into that. But I want to, again, wish everybody a great weekend. Thank all of the super chats that came in. It's very, very generous, and it's greatly appreciated. Again, two things I like to close out my shows with. One, it doesn't cost anything to be nice, and more importantly, treat others how you yourself would like to be treated. And I guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. Take care, everyone, and we will see you on next week's Xbox Factor Podcast.